everybody, Cliff Barron from Remax here. Today I'm talking about purchasing a country property. There's a lot of factors that are different. City properties, country properties. Let's see, when you buy a city property, you're working with city water, city sewer systems, a lot of things you don't have to think about. But when it comes to buying a rural residential property, country property, there are things that have to be considered. In a market like this where today the market is just so insane that buyers are putting in offers without any conditions in. There are ways to protect yourself, but let me know if you want any information about that. Send me a PM. But when it comes to a regular market, which I get the feeling we're kind of heading towards once interest rates bump up a little bit, the inspection is going to come back in as part of a typical offer. So when it comes to a country property, here's a couple of things that a lot of people are moving to, they want acreage, they want to get out of the city. So it's not the same. There's when it comes to buying a country property, you're looking at most likely a septic system for waste management. What that is, it's basically a holding tank underground. The waste goes into it. When it gets to a certain level, it feeds out into the septic bed. You want to be sure that septic system works properly. It's not cracked, it's not broken. One thing that you should think about too is before closing, it should be pumped out by the current owners, and you have to think how many people are living in that house too, because if there's more people than the septic system is built for, then there's a good chance it's going to need to be pumped out regularly, every year, maybe 2 years, which is a good idea anyways to keep the system flowing. And then there's the well. You got to think about well water. If chances are you won't have city water if you're in a country property. The advantage of the well is you don't have to pay for water, which is a good thing. But you have to make sure your water is clean, safe, potable, drinkable, and the flow rates are adequate to supply the house. When it comes to the drinkability of the water, you have to get one of these. This is basically what you get them from your local hardware store. Actually, there's places that you can get them from a veterinary clinic. Some of them have it. Go to Halton or go to whatever region it is. Type it in; it'll tell you where you can get them. It's not from Home Depot, just to let you know, they don't sell them. If it doesn't look like this, it's not the right one. Just a heads up. So you're going to get that. You're going to do a flow rate. That doesn't do the flow rate. That does the testing for E. coli. It has to be 0. If it's not 0, then the system has to be shocked, just like a pool, with chlorine to bring it back to 0. And even if you're a homeowner living in a country property, it's a good idea to test it ever so often, because it's free. It's completely free. So you don't want to be drinking contaminated water, that's for sure. So the E. coli test is a big thing. And then there's another thing too, it's the flow rates as well. So you'll have somebody come in and check the amount of supply of the well to the house, because it has to be sufficient to supply the house. If you move into if you're showing a country property and they have something called a cistern, which is basically an external tank that kind of as a backup system, then that's a bit of a red flag. That kind of tells you maybe their well is not supplying sufficient water. And if that's the case, then you're going to have to get water trucked in every month or two. You got to keep that in mind, or you're going to have to get a new well drilled, which costs money. So keep that in mind too. And then let's see, the flow rates. And another thing too, you're going to have to check to make sure the cap of the well is above, I think it's about 2 or 3 feet off the ground, because the thinking is in the winter when the snow comes along, you don't want that to be buried, because you don't want any seepage or E. coli getting into your well. Then another thing you got to consider is your boundary lines. When you're buying a country property, you might have acreage. You can ask for the survey. If they don't have the survey, you can possibly go to land registry and get some more information from there. And then another thing to also consider too is, which a lot of people don't think about, is the time and maintenance it takes to maintain property. Rule of thumb, I know this because I experienced it when I was a kid. I used to cut the grass in my parents' house, and on a tractor, 1 acre was 45 minutes, and I was booking it. So you're looking at about 45 minutes to an hour to cut the grass, and that's going to be a weekly thing. And then price of fuel, you got to remember that you're not going to use a push mower. You got to get a tractor as well. There's a lot of positives of it, because there's well water. There's no city water. Your tax bill will be much lower. You don't have to pay for water, and you're living in the country, which is your dream. So if you are thinking of buying or selling a country property, let me know. I can help you out. There's a bunch of things. There's more things too. Another thing to consider too, don't forget this. Check the basement. See if it's a cinder block foundation or poured concrete. Because if it's poured concrete, there's ever a crack, water leaking in, it's so much easier to maintain than cinder block. Because cinder block you have to dig out from the outside, which costs $400 or $500 a linear foot to dig it out. And if you have to dig out a wall, you're looking at $10,000 to $12,000, which is a lot of money compared to if it's a poured foundation, you just basically inject it. Get somebody to come and epoxy and inject it for $300-400. Anyways, so that's it. Cliff Barron from Remax here. If you have any questions about buying country property, just let me know. Send me a DM, PM, email, phone call, whatever. I'm always around. Thanks. Take care.